is Miranda, and today I'm here to review The Storm Runner by J.C. Cervantes. This book actually came out 2 years ago now, so it's old in terms of books. Now, I made it like one of my reading goals recently, is that I really want to try and catch up on all the Rick Riordan Presents books. I love the whole concept of Rick Riordan using his, what do you call it, influence, I guess, right? To make this publishing thing that is going to tell other culture mythologies, but like they're going to be written by like people that, you know, are of that culture. I think it's a really, really awesome idea, and it's really cool because it's giving a voice and a story to a lot of myths that I had never heard of personally and that I think aren't considered mainstream but are super awesome. So previous to this, I had read Arsha like right when it came out, and I wasn't a huge fan of that, so I think that kind of, I don't know, it didn't like inform that I didn't want to read the other ones, but like, you know how like books just come out and you don't have time for them all and it just sucks. So I read that one, wasn't a huge fan, but I do want to finish that series. That's on my list, is to finish that. And then recently, when I set this goal, I read Dragon Pearl, which is really, really good and very, very different. It's described as like a soap opera, a space soap opera, and I really feel like it did read like that. So then after that, I read The Storm Runner, which is where we're at now. I have to say, after reading these three, The Storm Runner for me is the one that reads and feels the most like a Percy Jackson book, and I mean that as the highest compliment because that's kind of what I've been looking for, you know, as a book that has that humor and that wit and that action. So I super, super enjoy this one, and I'm so excited to read the next two. The third book actually comes out next month, so I timed this kind of just right, guys. If you haven't heard of The Storm Runner, it's about this boy Zane, who is a, what do they call him in this one? They don't call them demigods, they call them like half gods, I think. He is descended from one of the Mayan gods, but we don't know which one. The interesting thing about this is there's not like a camp, there's not like a rule book of kind of set things of like other people like him out there. Like Zane is really one of a kind in this, which I thought was very, very interesting because it makes it so he really is like on his own in a way, but it was also nice because the cast of characters that he worked with, it wasn't like they were all just one type. They weren't all half gods. They weren't all humans. They weren't all, you know, one thing. So I like that, especially like the main three that end up going on the road trip that takes place in this book are Zane, of course, who's a half god, his friend, new friend, Brooks, who is, oh, I can't remember the word quite for it, but she is a shapeshifter. She can turn into a hawk. And then his uncle, who is human. So I feel like it was nice because it kind of, like they all had different abilities. I mean, as much as a human can have an ability, but he was a really good fighter. So they all have different abilities and different skill sets they bring to the table. And I thought it made it very, very interesting and different to read kind of, you know, they don't all have the same powers. They don't all have the same healing capabilities. The things that might heal and work for Zane don't work for Brooks or don't work for his uncle. You know, I feel like that was very interesting because it made it so you had to always consider someone else when you were in a fight and keeping them safe, and what you could do that would knock out your enemies but not hurt your allies because they're not like you. You know, it's not like where Percy and Annabeth could kind of do something and then they could both be healed by Ambrosia. They could both be healed by Nectar, something like that. I really like that. So the main story, though, is that Zane has been living his life, you know, chilling like a villain, except he's a good guy. Can anyone else, too, like, when they hear the word Zane, they just think of Zane from H2O? Like, that's the only other Zane I know, aside from Zayn Malik, but, like, he isn't spelled the same way, so Zane from H2O will always be my Zane. But Zane, living with his mom and his uncle, he has a volcano in his backyard, which is super, super cool. Also probably dangerous, but you know what? He's a kid. They don't care about that stuff. So for Zane, he is going back to school after being homeschooled for a year. He was bullied a lot because he was born with one leg shorter than the other. So he has a limp. He can't really run, and it just makes him stick out, and it's something he's super self-conscious of. He wants to stay home, not have to worry about going to school and stuff. And on the night before he goes back to school, he goes into his volcano. He had previously found like this little secret passage, and he's kind of going there, and then he sees in the sky this plane being driven by like an alien looking creature crash into the volcano and go. The weird thing is like they can't find any evidence of this dude, so Zane goes exploring on his own and sees this dude being like and like creepy coming towards him, and he just like books it out of there. He's like, not for me, this is probably a dream, I'm good, blah blah blah. But then the next day at school, this girl shows up and is like, hey, we gotta talk. And he's like, pretty girl, what you gotta say? So lo and behold, she comes around. She is the shapeshifter that I mentioned before, Brooks, and she explains to him that he is this prophesized one. They've had this prophecy for hundreds of years that he is going to be the one to awaken this guy, bad guy, that they've had locked up in the volcano in his backyard for centuries. And Zane, of course, is like, nah, I don't want to awaken this guy. He seems kind of like a bad person. But Brooks is like, no, it's fine. You're going to awaken him. I'm going to take him and I'm going to kill him so you don't have to worry about it. Like, you aren't, like, don't worry. That part of the prophecy isn't going to come back. So he agrees. He's like, okay, cool. Like, you seem like you know stuff. I want to learn more about, like, my background and why, like, I am the way I am. They end up unleashing this guy, and lo and behold, Brooks can't contain him the way she thinks she does, and he gets out, and he makes it his mission to destroy the world. Let me get this right, because there's a couple things. Destroy the world, bring ruin to the gods, start a war, and oh yeah, he also makes a bargain with Zane that Zane is going to become one of his death soldiers in 3 days. So Zane has 3 days to stop him before just destruction, total chaos, and also before, you know, he has to pledge his life to him and become like a soldier of the undead and fight against his godly parental figure and just kind of the whole world as he knows it. So the rest of the book is kind of them trying to go there, stop him, and all that stuff. You know, just the usual, you know, we gotta stop a god in a timeline, and how are we gonna do this? You know, it's what we're gonna do. I do have to say, again, it really felt like a Percy Jackson book, and having that kind of deadline, and having that kind of goal of like, we're gonna meet this dude and beat his ass. I also really love, I think my favorite character in the book actually is Zane's uncle, because he's just like down for anything, and is so like, I'm going on this mission with you, like your mom would kill me if I let you go by yourself. So like, even though he's way in over his head, he goes and he actually is super helpful and helps them. And I think it's just really sweet of how he has such faith in Zane even when Zane doesn't. He's like, Zane, dude, you got powers beyond anything you know. Like, you got this. He never discredits him because of his leg. He never discredits him because Zane isn't a fighter. Like, he's just like, you got this. And I love how he just rolls with every single thing that happens, and I was so glad he didn't die because I was so worried about that. Overall, yeah, I just love the story. I think the mythology is very interesting. I don't want to give away what his powers are exactly, because like, whoo, that's what I did like, is that when you find out who his parent is, there are a lot of things that could be his powers, but they're like, yeah, you can't have all those powers. You would like literally combust if you did. So he just gets like a certain thing that the parent has, and it's pretty dope, man. The thing, like, it's great. Like, I want it to be made into a movie, but also like I saw what they did with the Percy Jackson movies, and I'm like, please don't touch this. I also really like that it was contained very well for the book. Like, you don't have to read the second one if you don't want to. Like, it wraps up pretty nicely. In this one, there's like one plot thread that's not, and that's obviously for the second book. I'm definitely going to read it because I'm super interested in it, and I feel like Zane is going to be almost a completely different character because he's going to be more comfortable and confident in himself and in his powers in the next one. So I'm really looking forward to that. And it's also more of a, like, in this one, it was brought to me, like, I didn't have a choice. In the second one, his mission is more like, I'm doing this and seeking to know myself. So I really think that's really cool, of being like, you know, I gotta do this. I gotta do this. It's not something that I'm being forced to. I really like that. So overall, it's just an amazing story. I really loved it. Zane is an awesome character, and him and Brooks have such good chemistry together that is really, it's awesome to see them not only be friends, maybe something more, but just, you know, Zane goes from someone who does not have a lot of friends to having this really awesome friend that he would do anything for, and that she would do anything for him. And I think that's really nice to see, and just also to see him come into his powers, to meet the other characters they meet along the way is really awesome. And yeah, I just loved it. So I'm so excited to read the second one, and then the third one when it comes out. And I definitely gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. If you have read it, please feel free to leave your thoughts about it down in the comments. Who's your favorite character? What was your favorite part? All that fun stuff. Also, make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!